Welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast of the official Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney. Good to see some people waiting in the live chat. Our apologies for not being with you for the last couple of days. Larry is still out on the injured on the treatment table, but he is set to return next week. That is the report going round. But George is usual substitute off the bench as always. So a big thanks goes out to George. And again, apologies for not being with you the last couple of days, but life. So it does get busy at times. And to be honest, last night I was planning to go live, but to be honest, George, I was having an argument on Twitter, as the grown man that I am, arguing with sort of strangers on Twitter about Harry Maguire. And I just want to start on Harry Maguire here before we get into all the transfer stuff. If anyone has an issue with Harry Maguire visiting the Munich Memorial site in Munich and paying his respects, and if you want to go online and start abusing him for doing that, go and abuse every other player and every other club legend who has gone and visited that site to pay their respects. If you're going to go, he's only gone there because he has a camera there and a bit of PR, well, go and accuse Sir Bobby Charlton. Go and accuse Sir Alex Ferguson, Patrice Evra, Andy Cole, Dennis Irwin, Brian Robson, Michael Carrick. They're just photos I can remember of seeing those people. I'm sure there's been far bigger legends than those guys who have all visited that and had their photo taken. Harry Maguire had his photo taken. To be honest, if I went there, I would have my photo taken. I think we can criticise Harry Maguire so much and we can sort of be cynical in regards to PR with so many things. But in regards to Munich, if that upsets you, you are the one with the problem, not Harry Maguire. So that was my argument last night on Twitter with strangers, George. Forget all that now. That's off my chest. How's things, mate?
Yeah, good, I guess. And with regards to that, yes, it's one thing to criticise a player for their on-field performances, which we have done quite a lot about a lot of players this season. But that always needs to be separated for off the field let's say activities and stuff that is of the deepest importance to the club. That's got to be completely separate. Ultimately, regardless of whether you're a good or a shit player, if you're still able to pay respects to those that have gone before us, that's something always has to be commended, never anything else.
No, definitely, George. And just say good day to some good guys in the chat. Adam, good to see you, mate. Justin here from the Supporters Club. Lads, missing football. Melbourne just around the corner. Yes, we are counting the days. Justin will be down in Melbourne with us. And that is, just over a month and a week now. So, yeah, we are definitely getting closer. Adam here, Larry has done his ACL. Well, it was due back in a week. So that is a quick recovery from an ACL. But it has been a while since we've have had Larry back at the pub. But Mike, good to see you, mate. Rob, as always. Feeling a bit flat and a little panic that the club needs to back Eric Ten Hag, which is pretty much what this podcast is going to be about tonight. Just pretty much two topics in regards to the Darwin Nunez situation and Frankie de Jong. And as you can tell from the title, sort of transfer blunder. It hasn't been a transfer blunder yet. We haven't signed anyone. But in regards to that, I wouldn't say the blunder, and we'll get into sort of our personal opinion on this player, but the thumbnail has Darwin Nunez. And George, I've spoken to you before, and you're sort of not the biggest fan of Darwin Nunez, and he's definitely not on the top of my sort of priority list. I haven't seen too much of him on YouTube. He's one of those players on YouTube, looks brilliant, but I've also seen compilations where he doesn't look so brilliant, and you don't often see that in YouTube compilations. So he's definitely not on top of my list. But the blunder, in my opinion, is not so much if we miss out on Darwin Nunez or if we do sign Darwin Nunez. It is I can see the same issues arising. I look at Ed Woodward's first window, and we chased Cesc Fabregas for the whole window. Nothing happened. Richard Arnold's first window, I can see a situation where we're chasing a Darwin Nunez or a Frankie de Jong the whole window and nothing happens. And I'm just thinking the transfer blunder here, because Fabrizio Romano has just come out in the past 24 hours and tweeted that Liverpool have, and he's pretty much confirmed a concrete bid is coming from Liverpool for Darwin Nunez. Now, if you're Darwin Nunez and you have a straight choice between Liverpool and Man United at the moment, I think Liverpool's going to be the sort of preferred option for him. And the amount of noise around Darwin Nunez and United at the moment, I think Man United will leave a little bit of egg on their face if he does end up in a different red shirt, George.
Yeah, I agree with that. And with regards to the problem, I feel as though the reason why we do get ourselves into a scenario where we're chasing a player the whole window is clubs know we have the extra cash to splash and they know we're desperate. So they're just dragging it and dragging it and dragging it out so that they can scrape every cent out of us. It's what happened with, most recently, the best examples would be Harry Maguire and Aaron Wan-Bissaka in the 18-19 window. Jadon Sancho, I don't include in that because we were chasing him for 2 years effectively. But then I feel as though that's a situation that we've got ourselves into because under Woodward, who knew no other way to sell the club apart from money, and getting big transfer fees and big paychecks for players, that's ultimately the trap we've got ourselves into because clubs know we have that top dollar to pay, and they'll drag us out to force us into paying it.
This is where I definitely sit with, I'm all aboard the optimism with Richard Arnold at the moment, but this is where I tell everyone just be a little bit hesitant and think, okay, he's not just because he's friends with Ed Woodward that he'll be the same. But at the moment, a lot of the moves behind the scenes, I think, were going to happen sort of naturally anyway. Like if Ed Woodward was here, would Jesse Lingard still be here? No, I think Jesse Lingard still goes. I think Matic still goes. I think Pogba still goes. I think all these things still happen. Maybe you could argue Pochettino could potentially come in. But in regards to that, Arnold needs to prove himself because at the moment, I have a feeling that he's going to go down the same path. And you mentioned that in regards to what other clubs do to us. But I look at this Darwin Nunez situation. And Andy Mitten, so he's a good friend of the podcast, so definitely going to have a chat to him when we're in Melbourne. He's going to be there for the pre-season tour. He's come out and he got a heap of abuse for this tweet, and we've spoken about that on our previous podcast we did with him, where he spoke about United to have a definite interest in Darwin Nunez. The interest is there. However, a lot of the talk at the moment is pretty much based around his agent and reports from Portugal. Nothing really is coming out from the Man United side. Now, they definitely are interested, but in regards to a deal being close, Andy Mitten has said, look, it's not quite the case. Now, obviously, a lot of Man United fans on Twitter took exception to that and don't agree with him and let Andy Mitten know their thoughts on it, unfortunately. But do you think it is? Because I was having a chat with you earlier today. Now, I don't think he's going to go for this price, but I was making a sort of an extreme example where he's hotly linked with United and Liverpool for £80 million. Player from Portugal. I know he's not Portuguese, but a player from the Portuguese league. Wouldn't shock me if he goes to Napoli for £30 million or something and we don't hear about him in 3 or 4 years' time. It seems like one of those names at the moment for me, that one season wonder. I'm not saying he won't be a great signing for Man United if he did come, but with the questions I and a lot of people have over him, and I know you yourself do, it's a bit weird. I think Andy Mitten might be on the money here, saying a lot of this talk is agent-based.
Yeah, I agree. I guess if you had to think of a similar player a few years ago that was in that position, had a breakout season in the Portuguese league, went to Spain or Italy and didn't hear anything about him, think about Jackson Martinez, the Colombian forward who played at Porto, linked to every single club of the Premier League, ended up going to Atletico Madrid for a year, then loaned out all over the place, and we never heard him about it again ever since. And I, unfortunately for Darwin Nunez, see the same thing happening.
I think there's always those players. I thought the player you're going to mention, not from Spain there, but I remember a player a few years ago was Belotti. I think he was at Torino. Had an unbelievable season.
I do not rate him at all. I do not rate him at all.
But he's one of those, he was linked with 60, 70, 80 million pound moves across Europe. Now, maybe that one season deserved him. He didn't get that move, I don't think, or he might have had a small move somewhere. But
he scored half those goals by accident. I watched the highlight compilation. They were all by accident.
But it has that feeling, and I don't know. But I'll just say, a few more. Jordan, good mate of mine. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're recovering well from Origin last night. Justin here, just in regards to a highlight reel, George, was just watching Darwin 2022 highlight reel, talented kid, and we'll take him at United. Unfortunately, United always do their business late. Needs to change. Now, I want to throw two things to you, George. One in regards to that, and one more point on Darwin Nunez. On that point there, in regards to talented kid, would you take him at United? We always have this discussion. We can throw these three strikers, very similar strikers, into the same category. Now, obviously, different levels of quality. But let's say Haaland, Lukaku, Darwin Nunez, big, physical, strong number 9s, left-footed. Okay, similar strikers. And we have this debate, Larry and I have had it as well, in regards to a striker's first touch. Now, all these three strikers, good goal scorers, have questionable first touches. I'm just thinking, where do you balance that? If Erling Haaland, let's just say Erling Haaland. If Erling Haaland has a bad first touch and scores 60 goals, well, you don't care about his first touch. If he scores 6 goals, well, suddenly his first touch becomes an issue. So when does the first touch and the link-up play and the footballing quality not become an issue when the goals are there? Like, is it a set number? Is it 25 goals? Is it 30 goals? Or is it something a little bit more complex?
I think it's the system that the manager wants to play. Like, obviously, Haaland's first touch has never been spoken about when he's racking up the numbers that he has at Dortmund. But in my opinion, I've said this on this podcast before, but I think the reason why he will struggle under Pep is because Pep expects his players to be brilliant footballers as well and be able to be flexible moving across the front three rather than just be that target man. It's not to say that I don't think Haaland will be successful at all at City. I just don't think he will under Pep, and I think that signing is a sign that Pep won't be there within the next 48 months max. 24 months max. But with regards to a number, no, I don't think there's a number. With a United, I guess a United forward could get away with not having great first touch if Ten Hag's willing to play a system whereby you've just got your target man. I guess Sebastian Haller is an example of that. He's not a great footballer, but he was almost a top scorer in the Champions League, and he was leading the Golden Boot race at the time Ajax were in the competition.
Well, I look at Ronaldo. And it's hard to put Ronaldo in these discussions because we regard him as the greatest footballer of all time. But when we look at link-up play, we do have now. I think it's something that I wouldn't say has improved. How can Ronaldo improve? But I think it's something that sort of did improve as the season went on. I think Ronaldo did become sort of more, not more all-rounded, but sort of contributed more to the build-up play. But you can very well see, I think a lot of people say, no, he's not pressing enough for Eric Ten Hag. But I think in regards to what we've seen be successful under Eric Ten Hag at Ajax, you could see a situation where obviously you could see Ronaldo scoring goals, but even in a Eric Ten Hag system. But one more point on Darwin Nunez before we move on to De Jong. Matt, good to see you, mate. A point here from Adam, which we will get to in a bit. De Jong is the main priority. Almost impossible for us to sign De Jong at 85. Then Nunez, who will cost 100 million after add-ons. Yeah, look, it's a lot of money, but we'll get into the De Jong situation in a little bit. But Rob here saying losing Nunez to Liverpool isn't the disappointing part. It's not getting Ten Hag's first preferences, just like Louis van Gaal, Jose, etc. didn't get their main men. And that's what I mean by transfer blunder. Whether you want Nunez or don't want him, you think he's good or you think he's rubbish. If Ten Hag wants him and we don't get him, that's the blunder, because we need to be getting our manager's first choice. But in regards to tweets, the last one on Darwin Nunez, Mark Ogden just tweeted. I think he tweeted this morning, so probably about 12 hours ago, I think. This is a weird one. He goes, I think United are leading the race for Darwin Nunez because their need is greater than Liverpool's. Liverpool are interested, but I've been told they haven't put a bid in yet. Now, Fabrizio Romano seems to believe that bid is coming from Liverpool. But that is, again, where I revert back to this blunder. Let's say United's need for a striker is greater than Liverpool's. I think you could weigh it up, but potentially it is. It's not top of my list in regards to priorities, but you could make that case. I can see United mucking that up.
Well, we're not acting like it, are we?
Well, that's the thing. If it was our number one target, if we had a great need for this striker, it would be first name through the door. It would be done, because now Liverpool are linked with him. Not whether I like him or don't like him. You can see Liverpool or Darwin Nunez holding a Liverpool shirt up by the weekend. You could see that happening. Now, if Man United has signed Darwin Nunez, we're not getting him till August.
Yeah, 100%. And you could say the same thing about when we signed Bruno Fernandes. He was holding up the jersey 6 months after we were chasing him on deadline day of the winter.
Yeah.
Of the summer window, our winter. And I guess that's whether it's Liverpool doing good business or us doing terrible business, which I think it's the latter. It goes to show why clubs feel as though they do have the leverage to drag us out, because we have that reputation for not being able to close a deal quickly.
Yeah, definitely. Emad, good to see you, mate, as always, from Man Cave United. And we'll move on to Frankie de Jong. Adam brought a point up a little bit earlier in regards to how much Frankie de Jong will cost. Now, I made this point a few minutes ago in regards to the blunders that I see and what the mistake Ed Woodward made in his first transfer window. You could almost potentially see a situation where Richard Arnold is doing the same thing and chasing a player like Frankie de Jong. We're going to sort of dissect the ins and outs and latest news, but what do you make of the current situation in regards to, it was a situation a couple of weeks ago, then it changed, then it was back on, then it was off, and now suddenly look like Barcelona are very keen to sell again. De Jong's preference is obviously up in the air, so where do you sit on the Frankie de Jong situation as it stands?
Look, I'm sold that Frankie de Jong will not be at Barcelona. I still do think we are his most likely landing place, even if though it is short term. But with regards to your blunders, I think it's a blunder if we're paying the 80 million that Barcelona are asking for. If we're smart, we look at Barcelona's situation. We know that they're desperate to sell. Even 60 million plus his wages will be a lot off their books. So if we were smart and proactive, we'd be taking advantage of it and making sure that deal is done for no more than 70 million. But unfortunately, that's just not how United do business.
Look, I would agree with that, and I do agree with that. However, then you put the shoe on the other foot and say, well, if he's Eric Ten Hag's first choice, that's Eric Ten Hag wants Frankie de Jong, he's going to be the main number one target, and we're talking do whatever it takes to back the manager. And let's say he is on the market. Okay, Man United want to pay 70 million. Let's say Chelsea or Manchester City obviously want the quality football, and that they're willing to pay 70 or 80 million for him. Are we backing them? Are we doing the right thing, or should we spend that extra money, even though it's probably not worth it? It needs to be worth it if the manager wants him. So how do you balance that up? Like, if he is Ten Hag's first choice, are you willing to go over the odds?
We're in a situation where we have to. I guess we're not in the Champions League, and we're in a rebuild stage. So if we want these cream of the crop players, we need to pay premium prices, because that's what it's going to take to firstly motivate a club to sell him to us. Even though Barcelona, they're an anomaly. They're in a situation where we're desperate to sell. We're then desperate to sell.
Could you imagine being a Barcelona fan? Sorry to interrupt, George, but you just make a point there in regards to they're so desperate to sell Frankie de Jong, but splashing the cash to bring Robert Lewandowski in. Like, Barcelona just look, United are a circus. So who are we to point fingers? But my God, Barcelona, they're a bigger mess than us.
Oh, they're a bigger mess than us, but La Liga's always going to wipe their ass because they know their product as a whole suffers if Barcelona is not doing well, and we saw that this year.
Yeah, no, they're a successful mess, unfortunately. They'll still grab a trophy or two as they go along. But what happened, Matt here saying, what happened to Christian Eriksen? That news has sort of slowed down. And what are your thoughts now? I did a video on that a couple of days ago in regards to my thoughts. And look, I'll take the player, but I don't want it to Man United go and sign Christian Eriksen and say, look, there's your midfielder, Eric. I sort of don't want that to be the case. So I would sort of be leaning towards, as I mentioned, might make no sense, George, me saying it out loud, but I made the point that he'd be the perfect panic signing. I think at the last day of the window, if Christian Eriksen is available, bring him in. I wouldn't be going out and making him to the number one target. Sounds bad at the moment. I wouldn't keep Jesse Lingard or Juan Mata over Christian Eriksen. Well, personally, yes, I would keep Juan Mata over Christian Eriksen. But let's say Juan Mata's out the door, look to the future, Christian Eriksen. You might as well keep Mata or Jesse Lingard, in my opinion, over the free transfer of Christian Eriksen. But that's not to say no to Christian Eriksen, but what are your thoughts on that one?
Great footballer, no denying it. But yeah, I agree with you. Perfect panic signing. I guess the way in which we signed Cavani in the final day of the 2021 window. And with regards to would I rather keep Matic or Mata? Well, the fact is you're losing that experience. You've got to bring it in. Even though, yes, we are in a rebuild, you still need that experienced head in the dressing room. And Eriksen is someone that has won things in the game and played at a high level internationally. So that's just another personality you need in the dressing room. Because unfortunately, there are not too many players in our dressing room that have won things.
Yeah, you're going through. They always have those photos where they have a team lineup before the match, and after a couple of years, they sort of fade out a few of the players. They put them in black and white and leave the current players in red. And some of the players who were trophies, we've got just black and white photos. Obviously, David De Gea and Phil Jones is one of the ones with a Premier League title. But Raphael here from the Supporters Club, a fellow goalkeeper like George of the Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney. Good to see you, mate. I'm very keen to see our transfer activity. If we don't get going, that is, we can't let our rivals be more clinical in the market right now. Quality options selling fast. George, the transfer window hasn't actually opened. Well, it might open today, or maybe tomorrow. Are we being slow, or are we being sort of overreactionary as fans, thinking, okay, we are seeing other clubs doing business, and that is frustrating. But ultimately, if we sign a player next Tuesday, well, it's not the end of the world. Like, are we a little bit too sort of in panic mode already, and should we calm down a little bit, or do we have a right because we see potential evidence of where this path is going to lead us?
I would only say we're overreactionary if there was no evidence the club is going to be doing any business anytime soon. But the reason why I say we're not overreactionary is because there's no evidence of that whatsoever. We have countless previous transfer windows consecutively where that's always been the case. I'll tell you, put it this way. Do you ever remember us signing a player in the first week of a window that we were always chasing the season before?
Not off the top of my head, and that might mean the answer is no.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not. We haven't.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that is my concern. I am all aboard giving Richard Arnold a chance to prove me wrong. At the moment, these sort of backroom decisions and, okay, this deputy director of football and this scout being fired, yeah, that all looks good. It's not changing anything for me. I think ultimately we do need to see the support of a manager in the way he feels fit to run the team. And that is going to be the difference, in my opinion. And it will be interesting. But Edgar here, with the name, first time I ever heard of this name, it was yesterday. And I did a bit of YouTube plays for PSV. Apologies if I get the pronunciation wrong, but by Sangare. Plays for PSV, did a little bit of YouTube scouting of him. Looks like a bit of a Yaya Toure, Paul Pogba, sort of drives the ball through midfield. Look for Nkunku after De Jong. Then we need to sell Martial first to get anything else because our budget stinks. Anthony Martial, George, that's gone quiet. You talk about the Christian Eriksen news going quiet and sort of not sort of hearing this name or that name. Anthony Martial, what is happening with him? The last thing I heard is that it's likely that he's potentially still looking at an exit. Be disappointed, and we're so often disappointed with Anthony Martial, but this would be disappointing on a big scale if Anthony Martial still wanted out of United, because there is a big chance to become, okay, not United's number one striker, obviously after Ronaldo. Obviously Ronaldo's going to have that spot, but the main man behind Ronaldo going forward, the spot's up for grabs. Whether it be a current player or a player in the transfer market, you can be that next main man for Man United, and you'd be disappointed if Martial throws that away.
Yeah, we're obviously going to have the debate again. Is he a striker or is he a left winger? In my opinion, he looks most comfortable at wide, and Martial, in my opinion, is the sort of player that wouldn't mind, as much as he's been disappointing, I wouldn't mind giving him a second chance because for me, yes, we're disappointed with Rashford and ultimately has a ceiling, but with Martial, I see him as a much more gifted footballer. He has more than one way of beating a player rather than just his pace. He does have the intelligence that could on the ball that could work in a Ten Hag system. So I wouldn't be opposed to giving him a second chance. Ultimately, if we can cash it in and get 50 million, great, I'd sell him. But I ultimately don't think we'll get that.
No, definitely. I just want to bring up a tweet. I'll just quickly scroll through my Twitter, but you mentioned Martial, and obviously when you have a Martial discussion, we always have to bring in Marcus Rashford. But Simon Stone just tweeted a little bit before I went on air. He's saying here, just bring it up here, Man United have been making it pretty clear that they have no intention of selling Marcus Rashford, given the number of players who have already left and have not much use for. Losing someone they would have seen a bit counterproductive. Just needs to rediscover his form. We've had many discussions about Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford. Where do you sit on this situation at the moment with Rashford in terms of, at the moment, my opinion, my reading of the situation is a striker isn't a priority. I know Darwin Nunez is out there. I know United do have an interest in him. But as a priority, I think Ten Hag is looking further back on the pitch, whether that be a midfield position in De Jong or a centre-back, even the full-back position. That is where I think, if having the choice, it would be that area over a striker in Ten Hag's eyes. So can you see a situation where, with our obvious concerns and frustrations towards Marcus Rashford, Ten Hag is looking at it, well, okay, he's not perfect, but I'll give him a chance and maybe I can work with him.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the club would have forced that upon him as well because of how they value him, rightly or wrongly. And yeah, I agree in the sense that our priorities are further back on the pitch, and the way Ten Hag's looking at, I guess, if you can create enough chances, you can make the most mediocre of strikers look world class. Look at Raheem Sterling at City. In my opinion, he's not a world class footballer. He never had that ability, but he's the beneficiary of a system that produced chance after chance after chance, and that's why he racks up 20 goals a season consistently.
Yeah, definitely. This is a big point here from Rob in regards to the same mistakes we're talking about, Richard Arnold and Woodward, etc. United also need to learn from their mistakes here, and a contract extension for Marcus Rashford is in the works. Make players earn it, not hand it to them on a silver platter. That'll be interesting. I think we'll have a very clear indication after whether it be a couple of weeks or a couple of months on who Eric Ten Hag values and who he's playing, who's not playing. And suddenly, if we see someone who's not quite in the plans get a new bumper contract, I think that'll be a sign that the same things are being made. Just one point here, Edgar here makes this a name that has been sort of floated a little bit about in regards to Man United news, Dean Henderson. Edgar says, can't even sell Dean Henderson for 40 million. I'm hoping Martial could fit the Ten Hag system. Hope Martial sees this as a new challenge. On Martial, I completely agree. I know he definitely splits opinion amongst Man United fans, but you would like to see him try and take this chance. Whether he takes it or not is up for debate and is up for him to do. But on that Dean Henderson one, is there a little bit more news that he's sort of not Newcastle bound? But I've always said that the moment Newcastle was taken over, I said, first thing they should do is go get Dean Henderson. England's next number one goalkeeper, have an English goalkeeper. And it's not good PR. We're discussing PR at the start of the podcast. But in regards to, it was a no-brainer for me. United need to sell a goalkeeper. Go get Dean Henderson. A good move for Henderson, sort of at that club that's going to be sort of on the up and on the rise, guaranteed Premier League football, potentially European football down the track, big club. Now it's starting to come fruition that Newcastle are interested. Could you see that situation arising?
100% for both parties. But I get, if Henderson is the keeper that Ten Hag wants, I'd say get De Gea out the door. I think Ten Hag, with the way that he wants to play his football, has to make a decision very quickly on De Gea or Henderson, as absurd as it may seem. And whatever keeper he doesn't want, that's the one that's got to be out the door. Because don't forget, only 2 years ago, we gave Henderson a 5-year contract. Yeah. And that's obviously could be a stumbling block in selling him if we have to.
The one thing I don't want to see with Dean Henderson, I don't want to see a loan. Make a decision.
Definitely.
I don't want to sell De Gea. Sell De Gea. If Dean Henderson's the keeper, I would disagree. I would back it 100%. If Ten Hag says, no, Dean Henderson's my keeper, Dean Henderson number one on the back of my shirt, I'd love it. I think that's a decision that needs to be made. I'll disagree strongly. I think De Gea needs to be our goalkeeper for... Look, I know it's a part of the modern game, playing football the right way and all that. I understand that. But now, at the moment, we've got bigger issues than a defender, a goalkeeper playing the ball out to Harry Maguire. We've got bigger issues than that to deal with. So at the moment, I'd be backing David De Gea to be the goalkeeper, but you have to sell one of them. No more loans for, who knows, they'll probably end up loaning David De Gea to Spain or something. But it can't be a loan for Dean Henderson. One of them needs to be sold. We were having this discussion under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's first season, for God's sake.
Yeah, and that just goes to show how not to criticise De Gea, but I feel like that's an indication of how the club's always been stuck, always been 10 years in the past. And you can even say that under Fergie. How long was it until we got a director of football? That sort of issue by not having a director of football was brushed under the rug when Fergie was controlling the whole club, and David Gill was there as his CEO. But then, as soon as both of them depart, we get exposed for having absolutely zero structure in the head office, and it all turns to shit very, very quickly. Another example of how we're all 10 years in the past is the way Manuel Neuer, in my opinion, was the pioneer of how goalkeeping is done today, and ultimately we've never moved on from that. Moved on and adapted to that. And I guess De Gea, brilliant shot stopper, but when you look back at him in 20, 30 years' time, he's going to be one of those guys you say was great for his era. He's not someone that could have played in multiple eras. That's, for me, is another debate, but why
that's an interesting look at it.
Why I still have Schmeichel and Van der Sar ahead of him in the pecking order.
No, there's definitely interesting look at it there. Edgar here, sorry, I forgot to say good morning or afternoon because I'm not sure of the time difference. It's 10 a.m. where he is. Yes, we're coming on at 7 p.m. here on Thursday night. So it's good to have listeners all around the world, and I hope everyone is, whether you're having a drink at night or a coffee in the morning, hope everyone is keeping well. And if there is anything to wrap up in the live chat, any other topics, do get them in because we'll wrap up in the next couple of minutes. George, have I missed anything in regards to Man United news, or is anything in the live chat? Let me know if anything is unfolding on Twitter. It's usually around this time where a story or two or a journalist finds his phone and puts a sort of bit of a tweet out. So let me know if there's anything is happening before we wrap up. But George, anything else you want to discuss?
Oh, yeah, I said this on the last podcast, and I'm going to get a laugh again for complimenting.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
Yes,
prepare yourself.
If you're talking about value for money, Ben Horstel cost 10 million. He was brilliant for the Netherlands this morning. He'd probably do the same job as Darwin Nunez.
Well, you speak about that. Get your thoughts in the live chat, and please direct all abuse towards George, not me, in regards to that opinion. However, what I would back you on that, not back you the opinion, I'll just sort of push the opinion on a little bit. Louis van Gaal and the Dutch team, I know Louis van Gaal has a right to dislike Man United. I understand the way Man United treated him at the end was shocking. So he has every right to be pissed off at United. I understand that. But my God, he hates United. He is telling everyone under the sun not to join United. He's probably telling that striker not to join United. So I don't know. Just where do you sit on the Louis van Gaal stuff at the moment? Because while we did have a frustration towards him, I think we all still very much, I think a lot of us do love Louis van Gaal. He was sort of what he was. So just your thoughts on the situation around him and telling all the Dutch players to stay away from Old Trafford.
Ultimately, he's not wrong. From a neutral's perspective, which I guess he is now as their national team coach, he's advising players on the moves which are best for their career, and going ultimately, unless it's a massive step up from the club that you're at, going to a club where that is just shambles in the head office and uncertainty around so many positions of the pitch might not be the best for your career.
Yeah, definitely. I just seen a comment here. I just had a quick scroll through Twitter, Rob. Any news on the Varane injury? I don't even take that as news anymore. I don't think it's a serious one. I haven't sort of any operations or surgery sort of thing, but Varane injured. It's a weird one with Varane because I think he has performed decent enough this season, but just how many times was that? 6 times this season sort of thing. So I think it's one of those frustrating with Varane. You do have to give him another chance, get himself fit, hopefully a full pre-season. Well, he won't have a full pre-season, but
he was playing really well before he got injured as well. As soon as he went off, and Chelsea's dream target, Jules Koundé, comes on for him, they concede 2 goals to Croatia and lose 2-1. And Jules Koundé, please, I hope he does join Chelsea so we can see that he's just a glorified Eric Bailly. He's not.
It gives me definitely Eric Bailly vibes. That Jules
he's
Koundé,
an idiot.
definitely.
I don't know what the whole hype around him is. He has the same rashness that Bailly has. I remember this tackle he did against Kazakhstan playing for France. 11th minute of the game, goes in 2-footed on right in the corner when nothing's on, and gets sent off for it, and they end up drawing.
Sounds like he'll fit right in next to Eric Bailly. Adam here saying he told Eric Ten Hag, in regards to Louis van Gaal, not to come to United, and he did. So hopefully De Jong does the same as Ten Hag. Didn't listen. Definitely a definite case of that. And just Jordan here, just a reminder, Van Gaal's best moment, it was the Arsenal match where he obviously did the dive. Where in that game where all those debuts were handed out to Fosu Mensah, Rashford. I think it was a striker.
James Weir as well.
James Weir was there. Varela, I think maybe got not his first start, but Varela had one of his appearances.
He gave an assist for Rashford as well. That was also Rashford's Premier League debut too.
Yeah, definite. So what a game that was. And what a moment, because Louis van Gaal, yes, it did end on a sour note in regards to how the football went, but ultimately he went out a winner in regards to he's given me the best moment post-Fergie in regards to that FA Cup final win. And
Yeah, just a comment from Rob. Finally agrees with a couple of good results. If we don't qualify for the Euros with a group with Northern Ireland, Kosovo, and Cyprus, I'll be very disappointed, especially if Cyprus gets in over us.
Well, what are the odds if Cyprus go above Greece?
That would hurt. Macedonia was bad enough.
Well, I watched. I didn't put myself through it, but I did watch Ireland against Armenia. Was it Armenia? I don't know. Armenia or Romania? I was watching the highlights.
Romania lost 1-0 this morning.
1-0. It was a late goal, and I was watching the extended highlights of it, and it was painful. And I just think the Irish used to have such a solid professional team. Like, you went through their team, it was a Premier League 11. It was a team where you could put in the Premier League back in the 90s, early 2000s, and Ireland would finish 10th. But they were a solid team. And now you just look at it, and they're a championship team.
Makes you think, what if Grealish and Rice are in that team?
Yeah, that's always a discussion. Some say they should be. Others say, no, they're free to go and play for England. So that would make it a very different Irish team. But, obviously they're part of the England squad and part of that circus at the moment that doesn't seem to be going away. But that pretty much wraps it up for today. Obviously discussed Darwin Nunez, Frankie de Jong, a little bit of Harry Maguire at the start. Apologies for that rant. But if you missed that, go back to the start. And my thoughts on Harry Maguire and the abuse that he's been copying lately. And but George, as always, pleasure and thank you for jumping in for Larry. There is a report that Larry is back on the podcast next week. Fingers crossed. And Ashby agrees with you here, George, about Jules Koundé. But thank you, everyone in the live chat. Appreciate all the support, the live chat, all the different opinions. There are a lot of different opinions in there today, but that is always enjoyable to go through and I learned things. Some of the players I haven't even heard about until a couple of days ago, but a lot of you guys in the live chat do keep me honest in regards to that, so I appreciate that. Please do leave a like on the video if you haven't already on your way out. Please subscribe if you are new. George, any parting thoughts?
Thanks for having me on again. For those in the live chat, if you need to direct your abuse about James Tarkowski and Wout Weghorst, feel free. I'll take it 100%. I still think they're great value for money, but yeah, thanks for having me on.
George's dream in 2 years is Man United versus Burnley in the Championship.
Yes.
I think that's his dream at Turf Moor. But Stoney, one point here, he's one on my YouTube. I haven't seen him yet. I had to Google who he was. Obviously, defender from Italy. I haven't actually done my YouTube compilation of him yet, Matt. So I'm going to have to go and I'll do that now. And I'll find out that he's the next Rio Ferdinand, and maybe we can do the next podcast on, is it Alessandro Bastoni?
Yep.
Yeah, well, Rob, Italian and European correspondents, there's no chance that'll happen. So, yeah, I think just one of those names. But we'll debate that on another podcast, hopefully with Larry. But until then, thanks, George. Thanks, everyone in the live chat, and we'll chat to you soon. Cheers.
Thank you.